Hello everybody, it's Vertical Sandwich. Welcome back to Book Reviews. So today we're going to do something a little unusual, in that, oh, did I lose my placement? No, we're good. This book is a trilogy combined into one book. So this is actually three books, put into one book, but I think that they go really well. I mean, I read it as if it was one book that was just separated into three parts. I don't know, actually, I assume it was published as three different books. So it's by Robert Shea and Robert Anton Wilson. And the three books comprise, the first book is The Eye in the Pyramid, the second book is The Golden Apple, and the third book is Leviathan. So, we'll read the back. It was a deadly mistake. Joseph Malik, editor of a radical magazine, had snooped into rumors about an ancient secret society that was still alive and kicking. Now his offices have been bombed, he's missing, and the case has landed in the lap of a tough, cynical, streetwise New York detective, Saul Goodman. Oh, Saul Goodman knows he's stumbled onto something big, but even he can't guess how far into the pinnacles of power this conspiracy of evil has penetrated. Filled with sex and violence, in and out of time and space, the three books of the Illuminatus trilogy are only partly works of the imagination. They tackle all the cover-ups of our time, from who really shot the Kennedys, to why there's a pyramid on a $1 bill, and suggest a mind-blowing truth. Like, okay, so here's the deal. First off, this is an extremely adult book. Like, drugs, sex, rock and roll. It's all in here. Like, horrible violence, just, also, this was written by guys who, assumed you would not have trouble looking up words and terminology that they were using. Like, if you're not halfway versed in kind of conspiracy theories and the occult in general, you might be doing some research while you're reading this. I'm not saying that that's bad, but you know, it's not like a casual, like, there really is. It's got a very kind of stream of consciousness, hard to follow plot line. What I'm trying to say is that this book is real work. Like, the pacing is very slow, it's very deliberate, but here's the thing. It's lunatic. It is absolutely and totally off the wall crazy. Like, I mean, they don't even, it's not about, like, realism at all, that they're not going for, like this might be a realistic kind of, this is not, what was that book? Everybody knows the name of that, it was a huge deal. It was just a gigantic, it was not the Da Vinci Code. Like, where they go for some sort of realism. It's not that at all. Like, there are crazy things, like there is magic, there are talking dolphins in this book. It is absolutely, I think they're porpoises. It might be talking porpoises. I think it's talking porpoises. It's just kind of beautiful to kind of read that. And there are things like, there's a magazine in the book, and there's a guy reviewing a book, and he's complaining about it. Like, in every book, he's complaining about the book he's being forced to review. And it's very clear from his complaints that the book he's reading is the book that you're reading. And, like, that he hates it. And that he's going to give it a horrible review. I mean, it's just stuff like that. That these guys took kind of every chance they could to construct something that was, like, super tongue-in-cheek and, like, absolutely wingnut and off the wall. And then just tie in every conspiracy or occult theory that they could ever work in, whatsoever. And it goes to crazy places, like the Cthulhu mythos is in there, and like Satan is a character. Like a character that people have conversations with and stuff. And then also, but like, it's all leading up, which is really, one of the things that's really crazy is it's all leading up to this like music festival, in Ingolstadt. Ingolstadt. I remembered that. Also, you will see the dog in the background, because there's a dog in the background. We're locked in the house together during this pandemic, so she's going to be in, yeah. It's all leading up to this music festival, and they just do things like spend several pages just listing bands that are going to be at this festival. So, like, for over a week, the musicians had been boarding planes and heading for Ingolstadt. As early as April 23rd, while Simon and Mary Lou listened to Clark Kent and his Supermen, and George Dorn wrote about the sound of one eye opening, the Fillet of Soul, finding bookings sparse in London, drove into Ingolstadt in a Volvo painted 17 Day-Glo colors and flaunting Ken Kesey's old slogan, "Further!" On April 24th, a real trickle began, and while Harry Coyne looked into Hagbard Celine's eyes and saw no mercy there, Buckminster Fuller just then was explaining omnidirectional halo to a seatmate on a TWA whisper jet in mid-Pacific. The wrathful visions, the cockroaches, and the Senate and the people of Rome all drove down Rathleplots in bizarre vehicles, while the ultraviolet hippopotamus and the thing on the doorstep both navigated Friedrich Ebert Strasse in even more amazing buses. On April 25th, while Carmel looted Maldonado's safe and George Dorn repeated, "I am the robot," the trickle turned to a stream, and in came Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures. Give me 1 second. Alright, we're back. The dog owns one squeaky toy. One squeaky toy. And that's the thing she decided to do. She owns an entire bed full of toys, but now the squeaky toy is going to make me the most popular thing in the room. It looks like a pacifier. She's had it since she was a very little puppy. Now it's in my pocket. I'm going to cover it up. Now, while Carmel looted Maldonado's safe and George Dorn repeated, "I am the robot," the trickle turned to a stream, and in came Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures. The Glue Sniffers, King Kong and his Skull Island dinosaurs, the Howard Johnson hamburger, the riot in Cell Block 10, the House of Frankenstein, the Signifying Monkey, the Damned Thing, the Orange Moose, the Indigo Banana, and the Pink Elephant. On April 26th, the stream became a flood, and while Saul and Barney Muldoon tried to reason with Markov Cheney, and he struggled in their grip, Ingolstadters found themselves inundated by Frodo Baggins and his ring, the Mouse That Roars, the crew of the Flying Saucer, the Magnificent Ambersons, the House I Live In, the Sound of One Hand, the Territorial Imperative, the Druids of Stonehenge, the Heads of Easter Island, the Lost Continent of Mu, Bugs Bunny and his 14 Carrots, the Gospel According to Marx, the card-carrying members, the Sands of Mars, the Erection, the Association, the Amalgamation, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, the Climax, the Broad Jumpers, the Pubic Heirs, the Freaks, and the Windows. Mick Jagger and his new group, the Trashers, arrived on April 27th while the FBI was interviewing every whore in Las Vegas, and there quickly followed the Roofs, Moses and Monotheism, Steppenwolf Civilization and its discontents, Poor Richard and his Rosicrucian secrets, the Wristwatch, the Nova Express, the Fathers of Waters, the Human Beings, the Washington Monument, the Thalidomide Babies, the Strangers in a Strange Land, Dr. John the Night Tripper, Joan Baez, the Dead Man's Hand, Joker and the One-Eyed Jacks, Peyote Woman, the Heavenly Blues, the Golems, the Supreme Awakening, the seven types of ambiguity, the Cold War, the Street Fighters, the Bank Burners, the Slaves of Satan, the Domino Theory, and Maxwell and his Demons. I mean, they just go on like that. And there's just all these crazy things. I mean, it's just so... But it has, like I said, the book series, and like I said, the pacing is enormously slow. This is 800 pages for the 3 books, which probably isn't bad for 3 books. But the pacing on these really kind of slows you down. I read this during breaks at work, and it was a hoot. It was an absolute hoot to read it. But you can have a lot of fun with this book if you're willing to, if this is kind of your thing. So there's a pretty big qualifier with the Illuminatus trilogy. If you're into kind of pseudo-intellectual humor that works really hard to feel super serious while it's being absolutely and totally off the wall crazy, this is a good set of books for you. You might really enjoy this. If you're not into that, if you just want to pick something up, here's the thing, is that literature exists on some sort of spectrum, right? Where let's just throw up a couple examples at either end. So at one end there's Ulysses, where you have to there literally is another book of notes for you to read that book. That's how crazy it is. And then the other end is something I would say a Terry Pratchett novel, a Vonnegut novel, a Rowling's novel, right? So Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or Breakfast of Champions. Not a lot to it. If you can speak the language, you can read the book. And somewhere in the middle is everything else, right? And there's probably things like Hop on Pop and Fox and Socks are kind of maybe past those. Or Green Eggs and Ham. I love Dr. Seuss, but we're not reviewing his books. But somewhere in the middle is everything else, right? And this tends to lean more towards Ulysses, right? Where it's work to read it, rather than you just pick it up and you just go. They're going to talk about, like, more so, I would actually argue, is the narrative structure of this, where it just does not make distinctions between what is happening in people's heads and what is happening in reality, and what reality is, and what the rules of reality are, and things that are going on and things that aren't. And, like, that is the problem with Ulysses, right? Is that, like, entire things happen in somebody... I mean, if you haven't read Ulysses, it's a thing. But yeah, like, entire events happen in people's heads. And, like, even the characters in this book are just, like, I do not know. Like, one character you see die, like, right away, and then he's in the rest of the novel. And at one point, the guy's just like, I don't understand what really happened. Like, the time when you died, that guy was just like, yeah, you probably shouldn't think about it too much. You know, like, it's not really, like, clearly that's not what happened. But, like, why you think it isn't, so, like, maybe you shouldn't worry about that. And, like, that's kind of... And then the revelation at the end of why things are like that is a brilliant payoff, and it's fantastic and wonderful. But a lot of this is... There is a lot of kind of... Like, this book is written to be... Like, this is the kind of thing that could have gotten its first publication in something like Penthouse. Right? Like, it is a filthy book. Like, they went for hardcore adult literature, and so there are a lot of jokes. I mean, there are just gratuitous sex scenes, but then there are a lot of jokes about very adult things. So, like, that's another thing. If that turns you off, nope. But... if you're okay with that and you want to read a really, like, zany adult novel about conspiracy theories that goes to crazy places you couldn't possibly imagine, this is actually a good set of books, and I really enjoyed it. So, yeah, Illuminatus Trilogy, boom, by Robert Shea and Robert Anton Wilson. Both Roberts. There's probably some sort of conspiracy theory about that. Or if there isn't, there should be. Alright. So, when we come back next week, whatever we're doing next week. Bye, everybody.